about Patriotic Paperbacks from 80s America. It's a couple of books I want to tell you about. They're both second-hand books that I found recently, and they're both about a weird slice of 1980s America. The first one is, well, I should say that there's no reason for this talk, there's not like anything behind it, but I'm going to do it anyway. The first one is The Secret Freedom Fighter. There we go. I found it in Brighton last year. It was published in 1985 and written by someone who calls himself Jefferson Mack. I should warn you that I'm about to try an American accent. On the back it says, "Life is not worth much if you're not free, and worth nothing at all if you're dead." So I pretty much had to buy it, and it was only like 10p, so pretty good bargain. It's a manual, basically, or a guide to living under a tyrannical regime and what you can do to fuck things up for those in power. And it offers tips and guidance and stuff like that. These range from time-wasting pranks and practical jokes to propaganda and actual murder. Here are some of the chapter headings. You don't have to kill someone to ruin his day. Too many people don't give a damn if they're free or not. And traditional sabotage can be fun too. So the foreword is written by the former editor of Survive magazine, who describes himself as having graduated from Vietnam, class of '66. So you know what you're getting into here. Now, you might think that discussing a book that is potentially written by a right-wing gun enthusiast might be considered distasteful in the light of what happened in Las Vegas. But actually, I think it's maybe even topical. It's important to know how deep and how long this kind of gun fetishism has been running in American culture. And in the context of really bad 80s books, it's actually quite funny. You might have to trust me on that one. We shall see. The book basically discusses a number of scenarios, but the underlying assumption is that America is going to get taken over by communists after nuclear war. The other assumption it makes is that the reader is a fat American, and the first chapter begins with the perennial question: what happens when you're too fat to run for the hills? What happens when they steal your freedom and you're too fat to run for the hills? This is the first chapter, right? So the concept of running to the hills is used repeatedly throughout the book as shorthand for guerrilla fighting. Perhaps it's no coincidence it was written only a few years after the release of the classic Iron Maiden single. I get the impression Jefferson would love to run to the hills if he wasn't so fat. He says, "I won't fool you by promising I'll be up in the hills with you. I look down at my gut and I'm honest enough to admit I'll just be in the way. So what do you do if you love freedom and you want it back? But you're like me, you've had too many years of the good life and it shows in the overhang covering your belt." Well, the answer is to make life difficult for whoever's in charge, i.e. the communists, without getting caught or having to do any running. Jefferson talks you through a list of legitimate targets and reminds the readers at every turn that you shouldn't target innocent civilians. Government officials, a fair game, and known collaborators. But they're sort of bottom of the list. Here's some more chapter headings. The targets are the louses that hold you down. You don't have to run for the hills to fight for freedom, and the pen isn't as mighty as a sword, but it can make a damn nasty wound. So he's also got this to say: Americans are different from the rest of the world, whether our families came over on the Mayflower or the latest boatload of refugees from the newest commie hell. We all have the same idea, the idea of freedom. Americans are good and kind people. We love to cooperate, to work together. We invented the idea of teamwork. Teamwork didn't exist before America. I don't know how anything got done. Even if you accept that rather outlandish claim, his idea of teamwork is kind of weird because his big idea is that a successful resistance movement can be built and can operate without any organisation, with individuals, thousands of individuals sort of chipping away at the occupying power with small and often utterly ridiculous acts of dissent. So the enemy, there's no underground network, and the enemy can't infiltrate it, they can't capture people, or even fight back against it, because it's just isolated individuals. And it's interesting because although it kind of warns against being too gung-ho, it also taps into that grand American myth of the lone hero. And let's see how it might play out in practice in time-honoured BuzzFeed style. 7 ways you can fight tyranny without terrorising the innocent. It does say that on the book. It is quite clear about that. Just so you know. So most of the tips he gives are either deeply unpleasant or totally slapstick, like he did his research watching Tom and Jerry. Lots of them involve animals, for some reason, and many seem to be less about what's effective and more about the poetic justice of low-grade toilet humour. Here's a list of some of the things you can do to cause trouble. Put a rattlesnake into the desk drawer where the major keeps his stash of vodka, which is the communist's drink of choice, of course. Sprinkle itching powder in the clean underwear of a hotel guest. We've all done that, right? Or stuff leftover meat into the mouth of an unconscious political advisor until he chokes to death. So, a novel approach. There's more. Replace a major's headache pills with cleaning chemicals. And these are actual quotes from the book. I frankly don't know what the capsules will do to the major once he swallows them, but they sure won't help his headache. Or fill a toilet bowl with sulfuric acid and put potassium cyanide compound into the tank. The next time the executive flushes the toilet, he creates his own gas chamber. There's still more. Slip a box of hornets underneath the seat of the general chauffeur. If they get loose about the time the chauffeur hits 70 miles an hour, it might not be a practical joke. It might be assassination time. So you get the kind of relish he's put into these ludicrous cartoon things. Lastly, stick plastic explosives around the rim of a toilet in a flat belonging to the political commissar's mistress and set a detonator to go off when the seat is listed. She will use the toilet in perfect safety. But guess what happens when Level Boy has to go? I don't know about you, if the women in the room could put their hand up if they would feel perfectly safe knowing that there was plastic explosives stuck underneath the toilet, and if it even was lifted slightly, they would be blown up. But they're not going to do that because they wouldn't know. Yeah? You would feel safe with that. That's one of the things anyway. But he also thinks, well, you'll find out, he also thinks that it might be a good idea to release cockroaches into offices, put irritants in soap dispensers and rubbing dog shit onto knives. He encourages prostitutes to smother their customers with pillows or simply give them a clap. And he recommends swapping a road sign to divert a bus carrying foreign troops so it goes over a cliff, seemingly unaware that this has been tried before. I don't think Wiley Coyote really had much luck with that, you know. Yeah. However, in the same breath as all this, he comes up with pretty gruesome suggestions, such as following a government official into a public toilet armed with an improvised weapon made from a rubber ball, a 50-cent piece, and an ice pick blade. Aim for the enemy's brain, says Jefferson. The channel of attack is through the ear canal, the eye, or the soft spot, right where the back of the neck meets the skull. Make sure you stir after making a hard jab. You don't just want to puncture the brain tissue, you want to mix it up. It's pleasant reading, you can have a look. There's a whole chapter on weaponry, and he invites the reader to do a little thought experiment to see how many makeshift weapons they can spot in their immediate vicinity, which is a useful skill. I've got it in my CV. I want you to try this experiment now. Look around the room, he says. If you can spot at least 3 potentially fatal weapons, you have the imagination necessary to become a secret freedom fighter. I'm just going to have a drink. I want you to look around the room, see what might be used as a weapon. Any ideas? Or you're not fucking pacifists, are you?
It's lighted and fellow.
Pardon?
It's lighted and fellow.
Yeah?
My stage light. Bottles and glasses.
So you'd rig it up to look like an accident, yeah?
Accidental smothering with a tablecloth.
Accidental smothering, yeah. You see that happen, don't you?
I think if I wanted to attack an American's brain, I'd stamp on his foot.
An accidental stamping on the foot. Let's see what Jefferson Mack came up with when he was writing this book, and he just looked around his room to see what he came up with. An electric lamp that could be tossed into a bathtub. That is assuming that your victim is already having a bath in your hands. Glass could be broken and used as a knife, standard. Electric cord that accuses strangled target. No one got that, did they? That doesn't bother. What about a hard wooden chair that could be used as a club? A bronze letter opener that could be making an excellent dagger.
A wooden one wouldn't work then.
Pardon?
A wooden one wouldn't work then. It has to be
No.
bronze one.
Well, a bronze would make an okay dagger, but a bronze one would make an excellent dagger. That's the difference. You know, that's why he's a secret freedom fighter. Sets him apart, you see. Especially this one, this last one. A Phillips screwdriver that could be driven through the eye or the soft bones of the temple. He's not content to say a Phillips screwdriver could be used as a weapon. You know, almost one step ahead. So how many did you get? You got 6. That is how qualified he is for being a secret freedom fighter. You got 2 out of the whole room of you, right? How are you going to help the resistance movement? That's why you need to read this book, right? So you basically, all the tips he's given, he wraps up at the end to summarise. And he actually writes a little short story, which is quite fun, about what life would be like for a tyrant, i.e. a communist, if people were to put his ideas into practice, and to put his ideas into practice with the same relish for food poisoning laboratory mishaps. The short story is called Ivan's Terrible Day. And I'm going to end this half of the talk. I'm going to talk about these other terrible books in a bit, but I'm going to just read a bit from here. It's meant to be a Russian communist, obviously, and I did try a Russian accent, but that's even worse. So, Major General Gorbovsky started the day with a rush. He exploded out of bed, crossed the luxurious bedroom, trailing behind him sheets and blankets, and burst through the bathroom door, hitting it so hard it bounced back against the wall. The general didn't make it. He suffered an uncharacteristic moment of indecision, and thus lost the whole game. Simply put, the general couldn't decide whether he should throw up first or drop his trousers and sit down. While he was trying to make up his mind, he did both simultaneously. For a few moments he thought he was going to actually die, collapsing in his own feces and vomit. So, like I said, you can borrow this if you want. Got some tips and another little short story at the end. So, moving on to something that is no less ridiculous. The second book is Able Team books. There's one called Army of Devils that I bought from my brother as a sort of joke when I was staying at his house, and got it from a charity shop about 10 years ago. And I asked him, "Have you still got that book?" when I was trying to do this talk. And he said he was so sort of disgusted by this book that he threw it out. He's no longer got it. But I've got the internet instead. So here it is, the Army of Devils. I should explain. So Able Team is a special forces unit comprised of 3 Vietnam veterans, probably from the class of 66, who are now employed by a sort of shadowy military organisation to keep America safe from criminals and terrorists. They're like the A-Team, except they're utterly devoid of humour, much more patriotic and incredibly violent. In Army of Devils, number 8 in the series, the plot is a member of the Black Panthers teams up with a communist agent to release a new drug onto the streets of LA, which turns blacks and Mexicans into mindless zombies and unleashes a wave of anti-white violence, which includes throwing babies from the windows of speeding cars. So, while drug dealers, communists and foreigners feature heavily as the bad guys in all the Ableton books, Army of Devils is the only one to cleverly combine them into the same story, which so I say I've got the internet, there's nothing much on it. The only real reference I can find about these is a review on a blog aptly called Glorious Trash. And the guy says, without a doubt, this is the most insane, brutal, sadistic, over-the-top and gory book I've ever reviewed. And as you can see from the picture, it looks like the blogger was so affected by the story, he's actually preparing to hurl his own baby. Why have that picture? I don't understand. But also down below in the comments section, the author himself pops up to, I don't know, to explain himself. He's left a series of comments on this blog, and he says, I wrote Army of Devils at a total spaced out 20-day frenzy, making out like he's a freewheeling beatnik rather than a write of shit paperbacks. The publisher decided to fire me. I wanted to finish the last books in the contract and take off in another country. I hyped up with coffee, wrote hyped until I passed out, woke and rose. It's bizarre, he's got exactly the same voice as Jefferson Mack, which is unusual. Bear in mind, when he's describing this creative process, bear in mind that this is a book that contains so much killing, the heroes literally find themselves ankle deep in blood, right? But it's the bad guy's blood, so it's alright. Naturally, it made me want to check out the rest of the series, such as Amazon Slaughter, Death Strike, Reign of Doom, Death Bites, Shot to Hell, Death Ride, Hit and Run, Death Code, Fire and Maneuver, Death Hunt, Kill School, Kill Orbit, They Came to Kill, Fall Back and Kill, and Hard Kill. I managed to find a copy of the very first book, which I'm hoping will be worth lots of money. It isn't. And it's called Tower of Terror, right? Which it predates 9/11 by 20 years, and also has nothing to do with it. There it is. I'm going to magnify the image and zoom in so you can meet the team. So, on the right, on the right you've got Rosario Blancanales, which is a name. He's nicknamed Politician, or Pol, who's an infiltration expert and a team medic. The one with the tash is Herman Schwartz, otherwise known as Gadgets, who's an electronics expert and apparently has a genius-level IQ. The team leader is the guy in the middle, Carl I-Man Lyons, who it says, they have a little description of each of the characters, so we don't have to do any character development in the story. It says he's a blonde, blue-eyed ex-LAPD sergeant who has seen enough blowtorch to ply his mangled corpses to know what to do about today's psychopunks. Shoot first! That's literally the first words in the book. It's about ply your mangled corpses. It's for kids, right? Every book, and also, every book's got a fun fact file on the back page about guns. There's one. This is the Bavard .50 model B2, right? Which is this is the Spaz 15, and it tells you the length, the barrel length, which is really important. Muzzle velocity, that's how fast the bullet travels out the barrel, out the muzzle. Cartridge weight, you've got to weigh all these things up. Again, it's a book for children. Different types of guns, and bizarrely, there's also like an advert to win a digital quartz watch, which children can win by signing their name underneath a pledge saying they want America's enemies to pay for their crimes. You literally take a sticker off that and whack it on, and sign your name. They encourage you to take aim against the barbarians by putting a sticker on a circle in which said enemies are listed. terrorists, anarchists, drug dealers, mobsters, hijackers, boom. So as well as serving up patriotic propaganda to impressionable youths, the Able Team books also excel as a depository of really tedious gun porn. What have we got there? Blood Gambit, right. I'm going to read you a bit of this. It's an extract from Blood Gambit, which is the only one I've actually read of these, to be fair. I couldn't quite get through Death Rise. But in Blood Gambit, Able Team are assigned to protect a group of international chess players. And I can't remember why, but that's what they do, right? So Lyons had his Konzak shotgun slung low on his back where it was least likely to snag on anything. He carried a huge silenced python on the webbing over his flak jacket and camos, which also held a selection of grenades and magazines. Gadget had a silenced 93R strapped to his belt shoulder, his left shoulder, a thin black dagger opposite. His silenced Mac-10 was in a clip of his right thigh. It's good to know where it is. Politician carried another silenced 93R. His usual M16/M203 over and under hybrid had been left behind. It was too bulky for a stealth mission. Also, the able fighter exchanged his white oak Joe, or fighting stick, for a thinner one made from ironwood. The white oak stick was more properly called a handbow because it was about the length of a walking stick. The ironwood Joe was the accepted 15 3/16 inches long, but because of its strength and density, it was thinner than the usual 7/8 of an inch. Now, you might consider that poetry if you were deranged. So it reminds me of the playwright Chekhov. He said, if you see a gun in the first act of a play, then it's got to be fired by the second. You see a lot of guns in Able Team, and they all get fired many times. They do not disappoint on that front. Alongside the concept of Chekhov's gun, I'd like to draw another attention to another dramatic principle called Blankenali's stick. There it is. After learning the exact dimensions of Blankenali's ironwood fighting stick, you see it in action only a couple of pages later in this book, not that book. From his crouched position, he thrust with the Joe like a fencer making a lunge. The tip of the stick struck one of the bikers just behind the ear where the skull plates join, which you will have known from being attentive listeners. It's a good soft spot recommended by Jefferson Mack. The kneeling man fell, kicked once and died. Only the goon with a damaged shin remained. But before he could yell, a thin bar closed down on his exposed neck. Over him loomed a large man, putting his full weight on the stick. It crossed his windpipe and closed off the arteries. The goon's boots dug 2 troughs in the soft soil before he followed his dead brethren into hell. It's a good one as well. So these books are really popular in the 80s. And there are loads of them. Able Team number 36, list 24. By the time we got to 36, it's called The Final One. Oh, that's not it. Something is...
What was that?
Oh yeah, no, okay, so when I got this from a charity shop, there was a random photo in the middle, which was that. Just shoved in the book, right? Which seems to show a semi-naked woman in the 1980s kitchen. And if you can tell, there's a small child hiding there, right? Can you see that? She's shielding a small child, presumably from the guy taking the photo, maybe a husband, who is the Able Team reader, which gives you a kind of insight into the life of the people who read this. And I've often wondered about this scenario. What's going on? Quick, Jenny, hide! Dad's been reading Able Team again. Anyway, I shouldn't have shown you.
I'm intrigued by what's in the the lower left-hand side of this picture.
It's a clown almost.
It's
Yeah,
one,
it's
it's one of
enormous,
those kind
isn't
of fancy aprons, isn't it, I think? With a
Ronald
little
McDonald
feather bow
sitting
attached to it.
That's it.
Or is it Ronald McDonald? Do you think Ronald McDonald's taking that picture?
Maybe.
No wonder the kid is hiding. Anyway, I was saying that these books were popular in the 80s and there's loads of them. Final one. So we're on to number 36. And the tagline says, Able team hit San Diego in a suicide run. So, was this the end for Carl Lyons and his gang? No, they survived their suicide run to go on and feature in another 20 books, which makes 56 in total, right? There's also a related series about a different special forces team called Phoenix Force, which has 60 titles. And then in 1991, both Able Team and Phoenix Force were combined into the Stony Man series, which ran for another 140 books. But it turns out the Stony Man story was a spin-off from another series set in the same world, which includes 178 Super Bolan novels about Matt Bolan, who is the hero of the Executioner series, which includes yet another 453 books, making a grand total of 887 books, all about killing. Sadly, the whole series came to an end in 2014 when the parent company of the original publishers were bought out by HarperCollins, who probably didn't realise that they'd accidentally acquired several decades worth of terrible right-wing fiction. And they shut that shit down as soon as they realised that they had it. No longer would America be protected by Carl Lyons, Arian Machisme, Gadget's genius-level IQ, or Blancanali's stick. And that is the end.
Brilliant. Thank you, Ben. Well, I think just about says it all. I think, is there a link? I don't know. So those books, are they in the culture of the US? Is that, I mean, are they what?
They were incredibly popular. Like, they're called boys' adventure stories, but I don't think it was all only boys that was reading them. And
what's the target audience? Then you say they're called boys' adventure stories.
well, given that they're advertising Quartz watches, and they seem to be aimed at children, but I don't know. I think that
So young teenagers.
yeah, and exclusively boys. They do crop up with a female character who's also a Vietnam veteran, but from the other side, right? And so because she's Oriental, she's a martial arts expert. It's the only female you get in the books.
Does anybody have any questions? Yes, question.
So they got, the publisher got taken over by HarperCollins. Did they ever give a reason for shutting it down, or that particular series? Or not?
So it was the Gold Eagle publisher that published all of these books from the 70s through the 80s. And I think we just thought it was out of date and unpleasant, which it was.
Yeah.
They didn't need to give a reason. All these publishers kind of acquire smaller publishers and take their assets and then dump the rest. It's kind of what happens. And no one's going to. There was a minor outcry amongst fans of these things, but that amounted to a few kind of forum complaints and stuff.
Have you got any stats on kind of circulation numbers? Have you any idea
On the front of some of them, it tries to brag about how much is sold, but I don't have the numbers. But just the sheer number that they put out, it's kind of like the macho equivalent of Mills and Boon books. Basically, they just and then Mills and Boon books ended up being used as kind of there was so much quantity, unsold quantity, that they ended up being used in weird situations of like building like foundations and just kind of filling land. It's just like it was the sheer quantity of the unsold stuff they had. So these books were really popular, and this is only one fraction. There was loads of other series, like especially after, but they're all Vietnam sort of in the 80s. It's hard to think that the Vietnam War was only like had finished 15 years before or something, so it was closer than the millennium was for us, right? So it had a big impact on the psyche, I think.
Yes, sorry. Yeah, at the back. Yeah.
This kind of genre in the 80s of survivalist stuff, but mutual reliance in small groups. How far do you think that's been replaced by the kind of zombie survivalist genre that exists now?
Yeah, I mean, it's a natural fit, isn't it? It's kind of taken over. But the thing with the zombie thing is the zombie survival scenario has become so mainstream now that it's almost allows those kind of survivalist people to seem kind of reasonable, because things like The Walking Dead. Interestingly, no one in those kind of mainstream zombie things are these kind of survivalist nuts who stockpile weapons and offer training courses for people that think the apocalypse is coming. We need to start learning our skills now. There are people out there that are preparing, they're constantly preparing. We've been preparing for like 50 years. You don't see those kind of guys depicted because they're being pleasant, schizophrenic, possibly paranoid people, but maybe possibly very useful if it did happen. But yeah, that kind of fiction is followed on. So to avoid any kind of political aspect about are we shooting criminals, are we shooting blacks and Mexicans, you can't do that anymore. Terrorists change, The zombies, it's okay, you can have a free-for-all, anyone can kill a zombie. It's like guilt-free killing, isn't it? That's why those games, those comics are quite popular.
Brilliant. Yeah, Janet.
Were the different series written by one author per series, or was it kind of collaborative?
So they all say Dick Stivers, which
Right.
is a pseudonym for whoever was around to write the books. They're all written by different people. No one really knows, which is why it's quite comical that guy G.H. Frost popped up on that forum to claim his kind of his dues on that horribly brutal statistic.
Yes, yeah.
Am I the only one in this room who've not saw the ABLE team, a group of ex-Vietnam mercenaries against the government with guns and making anything into a weapon, linking that with the A-team, who are exactly the same. And of course we grew up watching these kids. Now these books, they started in the 70s, I think probably came before the A-team, but that's exactly what the A-team were.
Yeah,
they were Vietnam vets who did go out getting the bad guys and making weapons out of anything they could find in a shed.
I think, Ben, you did mention the 18, I think.
Yeah, I mentioned them at the start because they actually came out in the same year or like a year later.
Right.
So it was tapping into the same idea as that. I remember someone saying the 18, praising the 18 because it didn't show Vietnam veterans as being kind of either invalids or kind of losers or not being able to fit in with society but proactive, which is a difficult argument to make, especially with Murdoch being the crazy one.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's the same thing, but because that was on television, the violence was like people could shoot automatic weapons and go up in flames and then stumble out looking at the days.
Well, even then we saw that sort of comedy version. That's quite scary, isn't it? What they've written in there. It seems pretty serious. But of course, the A-team is still. I mean, the new generation of kids now because of the new films and stuff, and it's still pretty much the same stuff. But it's sort of tongue in cheek, isn't it? But these books aren't.
Yeah, I mean, when that J.H. Frost guy was writing, he seemed to suggest that he was having a laugh with it.
Right.
But it was so brutal that no one else is really laughing.
Well, it may well have had quite an effect. Any last questions for Ben before we draw the evening to a close? And if there's not, then in that case, can we thank Ben very much for